Monarch, Tales of Aria, and Everfest were a pivotal block in Flesh and Blood's history. Now we got print run numbers to go alongside of everything that happened. Let's break down the meteoric rise and near catastrophic fall of the second block of Flesh and Blood. I've taken a good amount of time to sit down and spend some time with these numbers and try to think back about my involvement in the community when these numbers were relevant during the second block of Flesh and Blood in each of the sets' release. And it seems that there was a lot that was going on behind the scenes that was unknown to the community, but it makes a lot of sense now. So we got to jump in our time machine today and kind of put ourselves in the mindset of the frame of the community at the time of these product releases as we talk about the print run numbers and what it means not only for the game back then, but the game now and in the future. So we're going to start, let's just do a brief little history lesson, a brief little time travel as you travel back to Monarch release, Tales of Aria release, and Everfest release. Now, this might have been one of the most pivotal moments in Flesh and Blood's young history. Monarch had a bunch of eyes on the game for various reasons. Not only were people inundated with the gameplay and ravenous about a game that they had come to love, but new people were looking inward as this was the social media card game that, the value just kept going up. The gameplay was great, the community loved it, and the value just never seemed to go down, and people from the outside had taken notice. And this caused Monarch prices pre-release to spike. We're not going to spend too much time on this, but I think it's safe to say that if the game was in the hands of, let's say not large companies that didn't have its best interest in mind and didn't suck looking directly at you, Channel Fireball, it might have been in a better place, but it wasn't, so it wasn't. It seems that while these prices were going up, as eventually we got the print run numbers for this first set of Monarch First Edition, it seemed like, wow, we have a ton of boxes, and this causes prices to, trend back down. But the hype wasn't all gone. Tales of Aria is where we start our story today because we just got Tales of Aria print run, and the first edition print of Tales of Aria was 208,000 boxes. Now, at this time in Flesh and Blood, we had begun to return to organized play. There was a giant preview event in Vegas. I know I was there. It was a ton of fun. And people were still hyped on the game, even though several people had taken their lumps from Monarch and its first edition kind of craziness and debacle. People were all in on Tales of Aria, and as Tales of Aria came out, we saw what was a seemingly healthy market. Tales of Aria came out, it never went crazy high in price. It sat at about $100, $120 in some places for first edition boxes, and the Unlimited product, which dropped at the same time, we don't really have print run numbers in, but we can infer some stuff, dropped at the same time and sat a little bit cheaper. And this theoretically was a great idea. You had first edition product for people that wanted to collect and hold value in the cards, and you had player product for those who wanted to get into the game mechanics and enjoy the game. But 208,000 boxes hitting the market all at once caused a ton of problems. Flesh and Blood's community was not big enough to absorb this print run. I am all for positivity, and I know we ravenously defend the games that we love, but let's face facts, this was too many boxes for the community at size at the time. And what this did is this caused someone to proverbially hold the bag. So we had a lot of game stores that went in and had built communities through Monarch and had leaned into Tales of Aria, and as this product was readily available and abundant and the community was not large enough to absorb it all, the prices of that product went down quickly. Now, most of the time this is not a problem. I always get comments on every video I make, the price of product going down is good, players can get $40 boxes, like this is great, it's for the players. That is great, but the players have to have a place to get together and play the game. They have to have communities that are supported by stores, and for these stores to support these communities at any kind of effective rate, spoiler alert, they have to make $1 or $2 off the box. And for that to happen, the box has to sell at a reasonable price, and you have to sell enough of them. Now, the great thing about an indie trading card game like Flesh and Blood is there's way more meat on the bone than something like Magic. Wizards of the Coast notoriously takes a bunch of meat off the bone, takes a bunch of money for themselves, that they are a larger company, and they know that their merchants have an opportunity to sell more boxes. Flesh and Blood takes the opposite approach, which is fantastic for all of its merchants. But as those prices come down and the sales numbers aren't there to support them, this is where we get into a little bit of trouble. Now, this was not the only trouble that plagued Flesh and Blood at the time. There was certain balance issues, there was hero rebalance, there was cards that were coming out that were banned on the day of, there was heroes that went through several erratas, and the meta was in a rocky spot. And as the game leaned all in on its competitive gameplay, this did cause some concern, and couple that with the idea of there's a bunch of product, we're seeing product value and prices go down, anyone coming into the game at a given time is maybe a little bit spooked, and we'll get to why that matters here in a second. But we have to move on to to Everfest, and this is the most shocking revelation of all of this print run information to me. This is where I think Flesh and Blood had a little bit of ego printing going on. You'll have to let me know what you think in the comment section below, because I really think this is Flesh and Blood's most major misstep of this time. So Everfest had come out, and we had seen Monarch come on, we had the debacle, but you could, blame that on Channel Fireball. But then we saw Tales of Aria hit the market. We saw how it did. We saw it kind of constantly dropping in price. You saw people really slow down on purchasing the product. And with the release of Everfest bumping the print run up to 229,000 boxes seems like a major misstep. Now, there's something here to note that we don't have Everfest Unlimited, so there could have been some misconception there. But with the amount of Tales of Aria that was on the market, and to this day right now still is on the market, printing that much Everfest just seemed, well, frankly, irresponsible. You don't love to see it. And that, as Everfest is released, we see people get excited about the set as they do with every new set, but it wasn't the same level of excitement as you had for Monarch. It wasn't the same level of excitement as you had for Tales of Aria. What had happened through that time frame in the second block of Flesh and Blood is, well, people had kind of come in, gotten burned a little bit, and then left. And when that's the taste that's left in your mouth, you're a little more reluctant to YOLO or jump back in. And maybe you did it for Monarch and Tales, and then, now that Everfest hits, maybe you're not feeling it. And Everfest didn't do a Tales of Aria. There was no unlimited release that happened right along the same time, but we saw the same thing with the prices. They never really spiked up. They never really went high. And post-release, as all TCG products do, singles prices began to fall, but sealed box prices began to fall, and all of it continued to fall seemingly uncontrollably. Even now, you can get Everfest on the open market for a very cheap price, and we're starting to see why. What this means is Flesh and Blood and LSS had a great idea of kind of what they wanted to do and what they wanted to be, but they didn't really lean into controlling their print runs, in my opinion, nearly enough. And what this has said is these three products, to me, are vastly overprinted. But what does that mean for the game's future? That doesn't necessarily mean the game is dead and all this drama, but it does mean that there had to be a drastic change made. Not only did FaB 2.0 look to make that change, but I theorize that there was a gigantic print run reduction. We've heard such theories from Rudy. I have tracked such data on this channel before and on my Patreon. You can visit patreon.com/hometowntcg. I really think that that was a positive step. But if we look back at this time, I think this is Flesh and Blood's biggest missed shot, in my opinion. That is, again, everyone is going to yell at me in the comment section. That's not, we all miss shots. All of us. Every single one of us miss shots. And that is okay. But it's important to note, I do think this was a missed shot. If they were able to properly balance those print runs, which, hey, it might have been an impossible task. I can't imagine how tough that would be. But that's the lot in life that LSS has chosen. So I really think if they were able to properly balance those print runs, maybe properly playtest a little bit more, have a couple fewer problems on release, then I think we could have seen a rapid growth expansion. In my opinion, what actually happened is a lot of people got a taste of Flesh and Blood, got into the game, and then probably exited as well because they were left, a little bit burned or feeling a little bit scorned. But I want to know what you guys think about these print run cycles. I think that the second block of Flesh and Blood is vastly overprinted, and I do think Everfest is the biggest misstep that's happened in the game to date. But I think FaB 2.0 is a drastic change in the right direction. And in the next video, we're going to kind of summarize everything that's going on and talk really about how FaB 2.0 changes everything and what that does for the future of print run data, print run information, and people who are now getting into the community, which is an absolutely exciting time. I want to hear in the comment section below what you guys think. Thank you so much for hanging out. Remember, if you like the vibe around here, you like this information or videos like this, share this video with a friend or group of friends. I look forward to hearing from each and every one of you in the comment section. Until next time, you all know me. My name is Josh, and I'm excited to see you. We'll see you around. Goodbye.